Let's us start the story.
Oliver Twist.
The first part at the workhouse. Many years ago in England, there were special places called workhouses where poor people went to live when they had no money or work, no family or friends to help them, and when they had nowhere else to go. Life in the workhouse was hard for the poor people, and they went there only if they had no hope of a better life. One cold night, it was very dark. A young woman arrived in a strange town. She was pregnant and was very tired, and she fell down in the street. No one knew who she was or where she came from, so the people who found her took her to the workhouse. An old woman, Sally, put the girl to bed and then sat down by the fire to wait for the doctor. Suddenly, the girl cried out and looked at Sally with eyes full of pain and fear. "Don't be afraid, dear," said the old woman. "I've had 13 children, and I've often helped the doctor when a child was born in the workhouse. Your child will be born soon, but don't worry, the doctor's on his way." Something was troubling the young woman. She tried to take off the gold chain she was wearing around her neck. Sally helped her, and then the girl put the chain, which had a locket with the names Agnes on it, into Sally's hand. "Take these things. Please keep them safe for my child. I am very sick. I don't think I will live to see the baby." "Don't talk like that," said Sally. "Close your eye now and try to rest. You'll need all your strength for the birth." Sally put the things into her pocket, and just at the moment the doctor arrived. Soon a baby boy was born. The young mother lay in bed, very tired and very sick. When the baby began to cry, the girl opened her eyes and tried to sit up. "Let me see my baby before I die." "Come," said the doctor kindly. "You must not talk of dying." He put the baby in the mother's arms. "His name is Oliver," she said, then kissed the child and fell back on the pillow. The doctor and Sally did everything they could, but it was too late. The girl was dead. "Well, Sally, I'm afraid there's nothing more I can do here," said the doctor sadly to the old woman. "Where did she come from?" "I don't know, but she walked a long way to get here. Her shoes were worn out." "And the baby's father?" "We don't know anything about him. Maybe he is dead. She arrived here alone." "Poor girl," said the doctor, and he sighed as he put on his hat and gloves. Then he said good night to Sally and went home. When Sally was alone again, she sat by the fire with the baby in a cradle at her feet. She took the locket out of her pocket, and for a long time she looked at it and at the sleeping baby. There were two small locks of hair in the locket, one fair like the girl's and one dark. There was also a gold wedding ring inside it. At last she put them back into her pocket and shook her head sadly. "Poor baby, I am sorry, but I am going to keep these things and sell them myself. Then I can have a bit of money now that I am old. I have lived in the workhouse for 50 years, and life here is very hard." Children did not go to the workhouse until they were 9 years old. Before that, they lived in another house where somebody looked at them and received money to pay for their food. Oliver went to live in such a house with Mrs. Mann, an old woman who kept most of the money for herself and did not take good care of the babies and children. For the first 9 years of his life, Oliver lived there, and during that time, he never heard a kind word, and he never had enough to eat. On Oliver's ninth birthday, Mr. Bumble, a big fat man who wore a uniform and carried a big stick, came to take him to the men's workhouse. Mr. Bumble helped to manage the workhouse. He had a bad temper and he was very strict. If anyone in the workhouse did anything wrong, Mr. Bumble hit them with a stick. So everybody was afraid of him, especially the children. One of his jobs was to give surnames to the babies who had no father. No one knew the name of Oliver's father, so Mr. Bumble gave him the surname Twist. From that time, Oliver get the title of Oliver Twist. Life in the workhouse was very hard, and the boys were always hungry. The food was always the same, a bowl of soup, which was mostly water, and on Sundays a small piece of bread. The master of the workhouse served the soup from a big pot, and he gave just one bowl to each boy. The boys became so hungry that one day they decided that someone must ask for more. They thought that if one boy get more soup, they could all get more. They chose Oliver. The master served the soup as usual and the boys ate it quickly. They licked their fingers and then looked at Oliver and the big pot of soup. "Go on then, go on," they whispered and pushed Oliver with their elbows. Oliver was afraid, but he stood up, picked up his empty bowl, and walked slowly to the master. There was complete silence. All the boys were waiting, hopefully. Oliver held out his bowl. "Please, sir, I want some more." The master couldn't believe his ears. He looked at Oliver's pale, thin face and the empty bowl. "What?" "Please, sir, I am hungry. I want some more," said Oliver again. "Mr. Bumble!" shouted the master, and he hit Oliver on the head with his big soup spoon. All the boys waited to see what happened. Mr. Bumble appeared at the door. "What's the matter, master?" "Oliver Twist wants more soup." Mr. Bumble's face went red and he looked very angry. "What? It's not possible. No one has ever asked for more. Oliver Twist, you're a bad, ungrateful boy." He picked up poor Oliver by his shirt collar and began to shake him and beat him with his big stick. Then he took him away and locked him in the cellar. Oliver was cold and frightened, and he cried all night. The next morning, Mr. Bumble put a notice on the door of the workhouse. Every passerby could see that notice. "Do you want a boy to learn a useful job? We will give £5 to anyone who takes him." Here, the chapter 1 ends.